Now, this morning, another round of tariffs are in effect, this one on imported auto parts, and it could play a significant factor in the auto industry. Previous auto tariffs left U.S.-made cars mostly untouched. But with this new tariff in place, there's not a single U.S. car manufacturer that will get a pass. The CEO of General Motors told CNN the tariffs would cost the company between $4 billion and $5 billion this year. So what does this mean for car buyers? We may not see any price hikes in the short term. Experts estimate, though, the added cost of the tariffs eventually could average to about $4,000 per vehicle. But Trump doesn't seem worried about how these tariffs will affect the economy. He actually said it's okay if the country takes an economic downturn in the short term. CNN's Jeff Zeleny has more from the White House.
Omar, as President Trump spends a working weekend at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, the economy remains front and center on the minds of the challenges of this White House, of this administration, even as the White House is releasing its budget blueprint, if you will, to slash spending across the government. The president was asked about the question of a recession by NBC's Kristen Welker.
And that's my question, the long term.
Yeah.
Is it okay in the short term to have a recession?
Look, everything's okay. What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastically.
The president talking about a transition period, that is something he certainly did not talk about when he was running for office, when he promised to lower prices on day one. But there is no doubt about it. The president is simply trying to buy more time for the economy to get back up to speed, even as the administration tries to ink some type of a trade deal that so far has been elusive. Jeff Zeleny, CNN, the White House.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Joining me now is Republican strategist Brian Robinson and Democratic strategist Tharon Johnson. Thank you both for being here. Brian, I'll start with you. Let's just pick up where Jeff left off there on the economy, because yesterday's jobs report was stronger than expected. Stock market has rallied, but consumer sentiment very low. Lowest level since May 2020. And then Trump tells NBC he would be okay if the economy slipped into a recession in the short term. I wonder what you make of the economic picture right now, and do you worry about it for Republicans?
Well, there's still a lot of really good economic news. The headline on the top of the Wall Street Journal right now is economy remarkably resilient, despite all these headwinds when it comes to tariffs and the uncertainty and instability that conversation is bringing. What Trump said about this may induce a short-term recession reminds us, Omar, that this guy plays by a different set of rules than almost any other elected official. And that authenticity is played to his benefit to a large degree. No one else would ever say, yeah, my policy may create a recession. But the strong, unwavering support of his base allows him to kind of go out on a limb like that. This is something he truly believes in. And when it comes to these tariffs, he believes that the issue isn't so much that Americans are going to pay more for cars, is that Europeans and Chinese people and Japanese folks need to buy more American cars. We buy theirs, they should buy ours. It should be fair. And if that's where we can get to eventually, I think that's a huge win. I'm probably a dwindling member of the Free Trade Republican Party. There's not many of us left, I understand. But if we can use this to get fair tariffs for our products, it's a win. I don't want to see long-term tariffs that will hurt American innovation and ingenuity. It'll make us less competitive.
And Tharon, I want to pick up on that because, for even some of the good economic indicators, there are a lot of economic headwinds, uncertainty around the tariffs, essentially ammo that one would think Democrats would have to sort of capitalize on. And I wonder, just from your perspective, what do you believe Democrats have the strongest case on against the Trump administration right now and the lead up to potentially the midterms?
Well, we got to tell the truth about this economy, and let's start with the tariffs. No matter how you try to spin it, these are inflationary tariffs. Every study, every economist that we talk to, and history has shown us in this country that you add on to inflation when you create tariffs. Donald Trump promised us that on day one or the first week, or at least in his first 100 days, he was going to tackle immigration and he was going to lower inflation. He's failed to do that. If you really look at this report also, Omar, it talks about how job gains are really, really down. Layoffs are up. small businesses, and particularly big businesses, should be very afraid because they've essentially been paralyzed. They can't make any bold predictions about how they're going to run their companies because you have a president who is telling us, hey, just waiting to see, trust in me for 2 years. I think the working class American, hardworking families in this country are worried. A lot of them are worried about their small businesses, many of whom have become entrepreneurs. But big businesses right now are having to answer to their shareholders. And while the stock market did rally, we are seeing record low stock market activity. So those of us in this country right now, almost 70%, put our money in 401ks, we put our money in the stock market. And so now with that not being where it needs to be, I think that we as Democrats have got to tell the truth. And more importantly, go back to strengthening the middle class and working class families. And
Brian, you know, one of the things here that we also saw is the Trump administration put out their blueprint, their budget blueprint for their priorities here. And some of the priorities, just top lines, there's boosting defense spending, including boosted spending at the border, cutting programs, though, for education, foreign aid, health, and the environment. At least from someone like Senator Susan Collins, who's on the Senate Appropriations Committee, it does seem like there's not 100% of Republicans are fully on board. And I wonder for you, when you hear some of those priorities, are those priorities that concern you, excite you? Where do you feel? Where do you stand here?
Well, you're looking at hundreds or thousands of items. So everybody's going to find something in there they don't want to see cut. Everybody's going to have something they hope to see further investment in. And we did get the word from Republicans on Capitol Hill immediately that the budget from the president, just like it is with every president, not just Donald Trump, is a suggestion that isn't taken too seriously by members of Congress. So that's very normal. But what I do appreciate as a Republican is somebody very concerned about our $30+ trillion debt. We do have to have fundamental change. We are going to have some tough decisions. We are going to have to cut some spending that we think is good, that we think is efficient spending, that is productive, because we're out of whack and we cannot go on in this trajectory. I'm so happy that as we're discussing tax cuts and renewing them, which I think they'll do later this year, that we're pairing it with cost cuts. That is something we must do if we're going to be serious in this country about our economic fiscal dilemma. So, look, it's a serious conversation. I give him credit for starting the conversation, showing we got to change our ways.
And Tharon, just on that front, look, we are seeing cuts to education, foreign aid, health, and the environment. It's also played out already in cuts we've seen in the federal government outside of just this blueprint. For the Democrats, I mean, where do you even begin to start to sort of say, look, the Republicans control all branches of government, essentially, at this point. So where do you even begin to start to sort of push back on some of these priorities that clearly the Trump administration has
Well, you got to
here?
hold them accountable. And you got to also remember, Omar, that President Trump in his first term contributed to that $1 trillion debt that Brian just mentioned more so than any other president. I mean, you talk about spending. I mean, he was massive spending. But the thing that worries me the most that Democrats are talking about are the cuts to education. Let's be specific. We're talking about almost $374 million being cut in K through 12. They're eliminating these preschool programs, many of whom these working families all across the country depend on. Also, if you look at the cuts to Medicaid and to Medicare, they're through CMS, they're trying to basically abolish Medicaid, and it's under attack, and Democrats are speaking out about that. And we also got to talk about these enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies that many 24 million Americans right now are subject to lose if we don't extend these subsidies and make sure that these premiums that they could actually embody don't go up. But the bigger thing is that if you look at the polling, let's get back to this. President Trump is the lowest that he's ever been. He's the lowest of any current president in his 400 days and in 7 decades. And so he had a very low approval rating early on in his 2016 presidency. So the American people are very fed up. They don't like the way that the Republicans are leading this country. They are waiting for Democrats to continue to be more bold. And really, if you look at what Leader Hakeem Jeffries and others have been doing, Senator Cory Booker, Chairman Hakeem Jeffries, has done, talking to working class people on the steps of Washington, hearing their stories, letting them give feedback, showing that they care. Those are the kind of kitchen table, sort of very succinct primary issues that we're going to focus on.
I got to leave it there. Gentlemen, really appreciate you coming in on early Saturday morning, whatever day it is today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Omar. Thank you.